computer, lights. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. We've got usually we do everything looks very blue. I'm always fascinated by what my camera has decided to do today, and I'm apparently very blue. Didn't help. Oh well. This light's particularly bright today, and I'm wondering if I punched buttons or something. Because it doesn't need to be that bright. And I like this light, but not that much. There we go. Still blue though. I'm bluish today. I have a bluish tint. Hi, I'm bluish. Okay. So we're going to work today on, I actually kind of want to take a little bit of a break. We're going to sketch stuff today. So we're just going to bring in a normal piece of paper, and we're going to talk about various sketchy things, everything's sketchy. For example, we were talking a while back about the idea of doing marine things. And so I want to talk about marine uniforms, right? What are our marine uniforms? So we're going to kind of discuss this. Good morning. Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful day. I got to go for a walk at noon at 11. And it's just a great day for that, you know? It's a good day for that. Okay. So like the Navy uniforms, the Marine uniform will be sealed for space against vacuum. We should probably take this guy and make it a little bit smaller, raise him up a little so I can touch the feet. You were in traffic, huh? Well, that's braver than me. I don't know if I'd voluntarily get in traffic these days. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Marine uniforms and what they should look like. because we'll kind of need these at some point here. Right? Right? Commuting just, I don't commute in rush hour anymore either. Of course, like all good Coloradans, we had to at some point. Okay. The one thing I think that most Marine uniforms need are pockets. Right? Because, I mean, the Marines carry everything. Let's go ahead and bring this up a little more. This is just to give me an idea of what this outfit looks like. Doesn't have to be perfect. I have to say that for myself. Otherwise, I will sit here and try to fuss with this thing for a very long time. Hypnosis sprays. Did you mean hypo sprays? Like medical? I can't imagine the Marines needing to hypnotize anybody. There we go. So Space Marines would definitely have something else going on. I like the idea of extra pockets because these pockets, I agree with you. Okay. So you do mean that. You mean hypnosis. I don't know. So I think a little bit about this. We have to think in the principles of this particular world, too. Unity Marines aren't going to be. They're not from, and I mean this. Hypo sprays I could handle. I feel like Unity Marines won't have, though armed, and this is where their utility weapon is. Though armed, I don't feel like Unity Marines would be, and I don't mean to say paranoid, like in a different sort of way. I mean, it's not like paranoid, but the stance of the Unity is we're at peace, we're settled in. So it'd be like the 1980s Navy and Marines. Yeah, I feel like the uniform is going to be completely different from the uniform. So if we think about like the way that the way that we were in the 80s as far as the Marines and the Navy went, much more calm, a calmer stance. That's kind of the way I perceive this Navy being, or this Marine Corps being. Doesn't mean that they're not ready for a fight, but the assumption is that they won't get into one. They'll be ready for it, but they won't be they won't take the stance that they're going to be in a fight right away. Good morning, Brent. We're talking about Marines. We're kind of thinking through the Marine uniform. The truth is that realistically, they should have some kind of camouflage. Yep, we're working on the Marine uniform. That's exactly what we're doing. Unity Marines. Only good Marine is a good Marine. Amen to that. Okay, so yeah, active camouflage, but what would it look like if you were deactivated? Like active camouflage, you push the little button and it goes and you turn into like the wall. But normally, when you're just walking around the ship, it wouldn't be active all the time because then you'd have people running into Marines all the time, right? Like running into them on the ship, their shipboard. So I almost, not only that, a lot of the markers on the uniforms are designed to make you findable if you're adrift in space. So they fluoresce or they glow or they do something to that effect so that you're trackable once you're, right? Hey, grays. Yeah, grays would work. I think that'd be good. Like different shades of gray. Right? I think that would be what we'd want. And I think also we would have, since it matches the Navy uniforms, a seal that goes like that. Because these are spacesuits, effectively. So you just pop the seal, open it up, and then you can get out of it like a jumpsuit. But it seals over to the right, just like the Navy suits do. Because that would make some sense. Might as well make them somewhat the same. It'd be weird if they sealed on the wrong side. But like a gray. Right? That's not bad. Uh-oh. Well, it would. Oh, so you think, but that might be all uniforms then. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you put the weapon here, and you don't want it to bam and open the uniform. But nothing has a recoil, because if it did, it would kick you out around in space. So the problem is that the weapons don't have a recoil. They're beam weapons. They're maser based. And if they're projectile, they're gyrojet. So they don't have a. They're specifically intended to be. I mean, the projectile, the bullet will be. They'll be firing small missiles. Effectively, you can control them. You can govern them easier. Because if we switch sides, I'm not opposed to switching sides at all. Except that we have to switch sides on the military, the Navy uniforms. Well, now is the time to change all of these things. I mean, definitely this is the time to do it. If we're going to do this, let's do this thing, right? So we'll take this guy and we'll start with the simple. We'll start with making this complicated. Then we'll have to go through and do some small changes to things. Like, for example, this is now a pocket on this side. And this is a holster. It looks weird to me. My brain really likes the idea. I have to go revisit that sidearm. We designed that one so many months ago. We have to go revisit it. So we put it on there. On there. We could. But let's take a look at the new Navy uniforms. Shall we? Shall we? Because these new type, what were they? Type 7 Navy uniforms that we came up with are doodly 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 doodly. We've got these new Type 7 uniforms, and that's a thing that's like, let's take a look at that. Now is a good time to fix it. Chang Le. I've lost that one picture we were working on. Because we were totally working on. Because that's mess dress. That's not what we're looking for. Did I just put it in the wrong folder because I'm dense? I don't know. Eh, yeah. Okay, let's take a look here. I'm looking for that. Because you know what? We could just bring up the old one and just work on that. I mean, just kind of redesign the. Well, yeah, but I'm totally okay with an idea and a concept if you've got a reason for it. And I love the idea that you wouldn't want to put your weapon up against that shoulder and brace and then have it pop open your uniform. That is a very logical and reasonable reason to not, in fact, do that. So I'm okay with this. Okay, kind of going down here and kind of trying to figure stuff out. My computer is doing transfer blood strip. You got it. I can't do diddly until I open something. Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do this. We're going to crank up Daz Studio. Uh-huh. Oh, I love the blood strip. I think that the blood strip's perfect, and we will do that. There's already a blood strip on the mess dress for the Navy. It's just that it's not a blood strip. Um, it's color. It's a color based for whatever is the come on, department. It's department color. So nobody's red. So that makes it perfect because the Marines can have the red line because it's green or it's purple or it's mustard. And so yeah, green is for officers of the line, mustard is for officers not of the line, and then purple is for science medical. Well, that's the idea, is that all of these things are going to ultimately end up kind of in a okay. We'll go out of here and go to guys runtime. Bellatrix, folks. This is Chang Li in her newer outfit, which will take forever to load. There we go. Yeah, the only problem is the mess dress opens on the other side. So it does open to this side right here. But it could open on this side. It won't matter. And I don't see actually a. Okay, let's just render her in T pose. And then, well, I hate T pose. It just looks so. Just give her a basic pose so that it's. Because it just looks so weird. Okay, and we'll just. Feel like there needs to be a better pose than this. Like, nah. Can I just have just like her standing? Do I have to go to male poses to get any kind of just normal standing? No, even that's not really. Pick up my rings. Just like something normal. Just want a normal pose. Like a person just standing there existing. There. Perfect. That's what we're looking for right there. Render settings. Make sure we're set for 3D light. Okay. Render out. Perfect. Looks good. Dang 1. Save. Minimize. Open. Desktop. Jang 1. Open. All copy. Paste. All right. Now we're back to here. Let's talk about our Navy uniforms. Then we'll talk about the Marine uniforms, the Marine variant. Shouldn't be a variant. Marine uniform should be a Marine uniform. But let's talk about the fact that in the land of this uniform, see you in a sec. Okay, we'll go here. We're just going to put in these stripes. Nope. Myself lost out there. All right. Damn. I'm having real problems all of a sudden. Like, it's questionable as to whether this should end there or here. think I intentionally said anything that was green is not part of this. All right. So let's talk about a few things here. For one, talk about the fact this uniform doesn't have all the pieces to it yet. So it's a tan piece. Yeah. They're drawn on the correct layer. Nope. Okay. Now looking at the Navy uniform, the Marine uniform definitely looks different fundamentally. Kind of thinking it through. A lot of dust and stuff on here. Didn't we at one point in time also have, like, where is that variant there, or where is the weapon that we were looking at? Because I know we have a weapon that we created for this. Let me get there. We'll load this guy. Right. This is that general purpose sidearm. I think we were trying to build this at one point in time in because we designed this whole thing because this piece here is a gyrojet launcher. Build it as an STL system. So every OBJ that I make can be an STL. It just takes literally seconds to load it into Blender and save as an STL. So just don't worry about that. I will happily build this for you so that you can have an STL on it. But I was working on this, and it occurs to me that no matter what we do here, I mean, we need some minor fixes on her uniform. Oh, come on. It's not that hard. We need some minor fixes to her uniform, but the reality is we don't need a lot going on over here. So the navy variant just needs a seal on this side to match this, but it's going to be the same thing going on that side. So let's just real quickly talk about that, and then we'll be good with the navy side. And I actually think I'll just leave the marine outfit like that. I mean, just pretty much. And this should go like so. For a seal. You know what? I sort of feel like it could even go like so. It could even seize up. There we go. Right? So it just literally just goes over and then straight down the side here. So this just whole piece opens up. You can walk out of it. It's a spacesuit. It's capable of handling hard vacuum for up to 4 hours. And unofficially can handle hard vacuum for longer than that. Okay, so I want to now work on this guy because I think this is kind of a cool weapon. You know what? We're going to just make a new canvas because this we know is the right size. Oh, copy. And piece long. Okay. Paste. There we go. I love this design because this is the, you know which way this weapon's going by visual sight because the threat is greater. Hmm. Okay, so we have all the pieces here. We're looking at all these pieces. Okay, and do this. And as we have done in the past, we're going to say new raster layer. And take this guy. That way we just pretty good with what's going on here. All right. I like this initial drawing. This one up here is really solid. So let's go ahead and use it to start. All right. So we're going to take this guy. Let's not have it. Let's put it like that. That kind of back sort of design like so. And this part is absolutely straight. Absolutely straight to right about here. And I'm thinking we need to come back for the trigger. We'll design that trigger here in a second. So we'll come around on this side. Okay, so fellow military folk who are out there, would you have a trigger guard on something that was electric, for one, probably has a safety for holding it? Would we still have a trigger guard? Why does Winamp need my attention? Okay, I have looked at you, Winamp. Because that's kind of where I am pondering at the moment. Would we need a trigger guard? Okay, so we'll get back to that. This core section then has the rotator spinny thing. It's a technical term. Rotator spinning thing. So that it'll clack over. So we'll go there for this. This is where a thumb would be. The fingers go here. The firing pod thing widget is there. I think about this because the Type 2 phaser doesn't have a guard. But I often think also about how often you could take a Type 2 phaser and just tap it on the desk and it would go boom, and that firing stud would be hit. So there must be some kind of biometric sensor that allows you to understand that you are touching it in some way. And then we have the interlock. Which is right here. And that's that pullback lock. So that, the more I like it though, the more I like the idea of it having some kind of cover lock so that you pull it back like this, rotate it, and then snap it back into place. I think that'd be kind of cool. So more like a slide on a gun where it's got the slide that goes back. You have the slide, then you rotate the chamber, and then you lock the slide into place. That also could give guides on the front of the slide so that if the chamber was off center slightly, the guides would lock it back into place. So we're going to change this to a slide up here on the top. I think that'd be interesting. Which will also give us a little bit of a something like that, which would pull back and just check, and then rotate the chamber, and then lock it into place. That'd be kind of cool too. Okay. But let's not put that on the main piece here. We'll do this, and then we'll go like so. Because this is just a guide now for the slide. That's all this is. It's a slide guide. And that's going to be an indentation so that the slide can sit like this. But inside the slide is going to be the lock chamber. So really, the slide's going to have a thing inside it that's pointed forward and then comes out on either side. So it's going to look kind of like something that looks a little bit like so. And then the slide piece will go like this above it. So if we're looking down on this design, right, it would be, I would think it would be a physical stud switch of some sort, because there's something about the haptic feedback of knowing that you pulled the switch, click, you know. So you'll need some kind of haptic feedback on that. Should. Because the problem is we have a scope mount on top there too. And either the scope sits with the slide. Why are scopes on top? Why not put the scope here? I mean, you know, you could still do this. I guess if you're here, this is a... But even then, I'm tilting my head sideways to get into that scope. I could do this and still be just as... Because the scope mounted to the side of this makes a lot more sense, except then it rotates with the... But mounted here might not be bad. Then the scope's still in the way of this spin, though. Yeah, that's not going to work like I want it to. A slide is cool. The scope's just going to have to be mounted back here on this, on the arm, the extra arm that goes into the back to give you your rifle extension. The scope will just have to be mounted on a long arc that goes on top of it that you just snap in. That's what's going to have to happen, I think, to keep it out of the way of the slide. But even then, now you have an interesting, different problem, which is once you've got the stock on, it's going to have that scope. You're going to need to somehow reach around the scope to pull that slide back. Which means the slide's going to need a bolt. That's really what's going to happen here, is there'll have to be a bolt on the side of the slide so you can just go clack and pull it back like that, and then pull it around and then snap it forward. It's still not a problem. I mean, it's not an issue. I like the slide a whole lot better. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the engineering on this. I like the fact that I don't engineer by measuring anything. I just engineer by drawing it and seeing if it moves right. New raster layer. So let's talk about this slide. Right? We know that we want the slide to go to here. It's got to go all the way back to here. To be kind of cool looking. Right? So we'll figure out how far forward that means. by doing this. So back to here's where this has to go. And we're going to have to make a circle thingy right here. And another circle thingy to give it stability. Right? So that means that this can go to here. That is the maximum forward position of that slide. Which, that's still going to be cool enough. It'll be fine. So let's extend the slide, because the slide can extend out as much as we want it to. There. And there. And there. And that gives us the slide. Well, I like it. I already like it. And then we will design internally. We need to be this high off. You know what? I probably ought not to do it that way. Let's do this a different way. Let's do this with a smaller brush size to indicate internals. Because we want to make sure it has clearance. If you're going to print this thing, it's got to have clearance inside there. And this then should have internally this piece. And now we know what that piece needs to look like. Right, so now we take this guy and there's the slide. I mean, really, honestly, this prop is going to have to be functioning in order for it to be a prop that I can build. So it's going to have to be functioning anyway in the 3D world. Might as well make it function for you to print. Pull back from the lever on the top, goes this way. So you can grab it with the finger and pull back, and then press with the thumb to push forward. So the thumb goes in there, finger goes here. Clack, rotate, clack. I feel like these guys may not be enough strength to hold it together, but we'll work on it, huh? We'll work on it. Should be big enough to do all of that. So clack to pull back, rotate, thrap, put it forward. If you're just using your hand, you can just grab the front part of this and slide in. This should be almost 1-to-1. Not quite 1-to-1. Okay, now we've got that. So this is the slide. This is the core. When we talk about the core design, inside here is the clip, so it should rock out and then come down and drop out. Or it could just drop straight down. Maybe it should just drop straight down. And give it a thumb release up here. Or, yeah, right there, right where your thumb is. So you can just go grab the weapon and go. Yeah, that never happens. Okay, let's not do that. Alrighty, we'll come up with this design in a second. But we're still at 4, so let's undo. Like about this big. Here. Same on this side. We don't want to have too little design in here. Like this, like so, so. That should be about right for batteries. Logically, they should fit only one way. So the batteries are going to be pointed on the front and flat on the back. Point towards enemy. So the batteries will be shaped like so. So there's no way of accidentally putting the clip in wrong. I feel like the batteries also should come out the bottom like so, because I like that. That was a feature on the Aliens rifle that I thought was great, because then it's easy to pull that clip out, just grab it on your side and clap out like that. We just need to come up with a locking mechanism that holds the clip in so that it doesn't come out. In the interim, yeah, take a break here in a sec, but that's right. We'll take a break in a second here. Top view of the clip. All right. Okay. We'll take our break. Bring the ring camera back. Oh my gosh. This hurts. Okay, everybody. You know how this goes. Stand up. Stretch. Okay. Go for a quick little jaunt. Then we jaunt back. We're back jaunting. All right. All right. So now we have, let's go on ahead and do a new layer. We'll call this one, come on, just give me a new raster layer. Call this one, whoop. And we'll talk about how clips work. Because this guy here needs to be back up at 10. And he's going to sit just like this. Like that. There we go. Now we can take the clip, move them over here, down here somewhere. And work on this side. Trying to think of any place on this handle that will give a good release without having to worry about releasing the clip while holding it and trying to shoot at people. You know, bam, 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 click. Damn it. Bam, 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 click. Damn it. You know, so I'm trying to kind of think of a better release mechanism. Because up here would be ideal, but then that's quite a ways away from the battery. So internally. So you know what? I'll worry about it later. We'll come up with that design later. In the meantime, let's go on ahead and talk about the upper and lower core slides, the slide, the rotator. Rotation pod. Because this has all of these pieces in it that go like right to right here so that they are and this guy should cover this center section 100%. That's all right. It's all right, Donald. You do what you need to do, my friend. You do what you need to do. Okay, so we're going to take this rotation pod right here. I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to flip this guy, not the canvas, just the image. There we go. Vertical. This will give me an idea of how unrotated it really is. Look at that. That's weird. Okay. This is a secondary weapon. So you're saying it should be like a bayonet. well, let's not do that. the pause here is because the rotation pod doesn't connect up at the top. And the question is, should it? It won't matter. You'll close that slide, and once you do, the gap will be closed. Donald, are you talking about you personally, or are you talking about the weapon? And I hate to ask that because it sounds horrible. But I'm not. I'm reading that and I'm like, I am unsure as to whether we're talking about the weapon or we're talking about anyway. You personally. So I'm going to take the core and we're going to readjust it now that we've done this. Okay. Well, I'm hoping that works really well for you then, because like that's definitely a thing. We want the more we can do, make life better for you, the better things are. Absolutely. Okay. I actually think I'm going to go ahead and pull this back part of the core back because it doesn't need to connect down here. In fact, it might look kind of cool if it isn't connected at all. And this top part has that chamber piece that goes inside it. All right. This is good because this is helping me quite a bit. That's the trigger button. Yeah. Yeah, that's my thought too. We've got on the rotation pod has two pieces to it. It's got the stun and kill, so you can flip it over and it's obviously set for kill. Once it's set for kill, you can see it, it's clear. And I think that's part of like a congressional order would be my thought, of some sort. Like it was required by Congress to make it look obvious that it's on stun. That'd be my thought. So the kill pod up here is going to be like longer. And meaner. Let's get the slide up on here so that I can see where that slide ends. And the slide is in, which is here, to the stop. And the kill side should, the lawgivers from the judge, yeah, the kill side should line up. I mean, it's still going to have to be like here for it to clear inside the slide. But this top side doesn't have to. That way, design wise, You know what? I think they should go the other direction. Like that. And then like that. The reasoning behind is turned up with the triangles upward looks less threatening. When the gun looks like this, when the weapon is like that, both of these look like they're going to not do you any good. Right? And it has to go weep weep every time you push the button. And a little light on the side. Meep, meep. You know. That way, when you keep forgetting your dumb weapon. Okay, so the rotation pod, let's go on ahead and take a look at it this way on stun mode. Really what needs to happen is I need to set this thing up so it's not crooked. Because it's crooked. Would you say it would be hilarious? Okay. So then when it's on stun, there we go. Still very visual. You can very much tell the weapon is set for some kind of unpleasantness or not set for unpleasantness. Like this is a stun. And you can totally see it. The triangles are aimed up. It looks less threatening. I mean, it's still a weapon, so it's always going to be threatening. But I think design-wise, this looks good because then in the comic, it'll be pretty obvious when they're coming in with their weapons at stun. All the weapons pods will be faced up. And then when they decide to get serious and they flip those weapon pods around, everything will be faced down and it'll look much more threatening. Cool. Let's go in here real quick. Make sure that on the rotation pod we have it marked where, because of course this, even though we're going to have this fit under the slide just fine, it still will have sort of a little bit of a look that works. And then internally, it needs to be able to handle this guy. Make sure that's wider than. Okay. So that's when the pod is here. We can take the slide and remove it at this point. No, we want to put the slide back in, just make sure. And then I'll take the rotation pod and we'll rotate it one more time. Really could have made this a lot better for myself if I hadn't if I'd thought ahead before I did this. That's what I loop it for. Clack. There goes the weapon in its connection mode. Do the same thing over here. Make sure that there's room inside here for the insert. Otherwise, that won't help us any. The slide will go in there and then it won't close. Looking at this, one other thing we could do is guide on the spin. So put a wave guide along the outside of the spin so that when you rotate it, it will slide forward and rotate and then slide back. So, all you need to do is pull it and it will guide it into the lock position. And we'd only have to do something on the rotation that kind of looks like this, so that it's forced up as it comes out, and then as it comes back in, it slides back into position. And that way you're guided into that lock-in position so the connection can be made. A lot of engineering going on here, and it's kind of not my forte. It's not my fifth either. I actually think it'll go this way. The only problem then is that the weapon will have... No, we just need to make sure it guides on both sides. So it does that on both sides. That way the guide never screws up on this. Because if it's that way, I didn't want it'll be slide forwardy, but it doesn't. It just slides this way. So as it comes out, it slides forward. So it just rotates like that. So that you'll have sort of a solid feel as to when it clicks into place. And that's what I want. Isn't it? Yes. And we probably really want to do something pointed, so that there's a definite haptic feel of it going clack into place, like it slides up or slides back, because it doesn't need to be perfect, because once that forward slide goes into place, click, everything will be locked. It won't be able to slide back and forth anymore because the slide's locking it in place. It won't be able to rotate because the power converter slide will be connected. Right? And this is how you connect the power from the battery to this. Very straightforward. I don't know. For one, haven't decided whether we've got shields or not, like shielding shields, like electromagnetic shields of any sort. And if so, can you have personal electromagnetic shields? That's sort of a thing. I think you would have EM shields. Everything's electric. So you could just charge up an EM shield, but that would give a different effect, right? I would fire and the bullet or the blast would go around you, you go and hit parts of the hallway and things like that. So you'd be like bam, 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 and it'd be like Neo in the Matrix, right? The bullets would just be going around you. Because we do have the ability to control gravity to some degree. So I think if we've got gravity, we've got, right, a jammer for the smart weapons. That's when you'd use the gyrojet extension. The gyrojet extension is this part that goes out here. And that gyrojet extension, which we haven't gotten to or designed yet, that would then just start firing rockets at you, little teeny rockets that are about this big. And just go, you know, it's with explosives in them or whatever. Have special kinds of gyrojet weapons. But now that we mentioned the gyrojet extension, we need to put the piece up here that holds that gyrojet extension on. Which would be wider so that it can snap in. But it's still going to have to be circular. Otherwise, it won't work. All right, so we'll take this piece off right here. There we go. And we'll take this piece right there. That front piece is going to be for connecting the gyrojet. Right? Gravity grenades. If you could concentrate gravity in like just this big of an area, it'd be enough to destroy people. Just rip through people. It'd be horrible. And in fact, I think we should have at some point in time the Commonwealth, the bad guys, the Commonwealth decides to use gravity grenades of some sort. Because I think that would be horrifying, right? Okay. You know what we need to do? Take this rotation pod. We're going to duplicate it. And I'm going to fix this stupid problem. Flip it vertical. Okay. So, like, I can totally see now that we are not level on this at all. And that's fine. But I want level. So, we're going to do a new. Okay. We're going to do a new raster layer. I'm just going to do a rectangle in here because the rectangle will be straight. And we know that, right? And we're going to let's turn off the name slide. Rotation pod, the rotation pod. Yeah, see, we're not even lined up. Clip. Let's take this core. I don't even know what the heck's going on here. Okay, take a core and line it up at least somewhat with, there we go. Now I'll take the rotation pod. We don't need to take this rotation pod. We don't need this. We do need to take the rotation pod now and adjust it. Oh yeah. It reminds me of that story of the decompression chamber on that deep dive vessel. Somebody had opened the door by accident on the decompression chamber when it was still at like 50 atmospheres or something ridiculous. And the guys inside, they found pieces of them like all over the ship. They were just killed so quickly. And it was brutal. So we're going to fix the slide. because the slide now needs to really be, this is the time when we need to fix this slide. Yeah, I mean, like that kind of, so we don't use those like Geneva Convention sort of esque designs. We don't use gravity weapons because of the Geneva Convention of whatever, however we want to look at our version of the Geneva Convention. We're not going to use those. The Unity won't use them because they're the good guys, right? But then the Commonwealth's going to somewhere use them because they're the bad guys. And that's how this works. So I'm going to go ahead and redo all of these pieces because we're going to make this more accurate. There we go. All right, I'm going to take this circle. No, it's like it never does what I want it to do, ever. Okay, because there is a, where do you start from? Okay, start from here. And then I will just take that and move it. That's the way this always works. Okay. So that's one pin. Paste. We need 2 pins, otherwise the slide will rock. We don't want the slide to rock. But we could do an extended pin, like so, and that actually wouldn't be bad. So instead of a pin, it's a pivot. And maybe that's not a bad idea. Move that. Because the more room we have inside here to get that slide back and forth without causing problems, the better we are. Here. Go. Now what we can do is take the core and match that side. So we'll do that. I'm going to take this away here, and we will. And let's take it down from there because this is kind of. No, undo. I go from here to here. There we go. Take this line right here, go like that, and go like that, and go like that. Okay. And then we'll discuss the other side of the slide. We'll pull the slide back, pull back, because it can go all the way back to, it should go to here. No, if we pull that slide, we know the slide goes forward to here. But we could pull that slide back even further. I don't think there's anything we can do. It's got to go to here and then stop. And that's the name of the game. Enough that the rotator can rotate, but it's not going to need to, we want to be able to, it is looking awesome. But at least now we know what some of this engineering looks like. And Brent is totally going to print this thing. I know he is. He's been aching to print it for a while. That's not what I want. I want from here to here. And that's the stop. Be kind of cool to see what Brent prints, though. I mean, to be fair, I kind of want to print it too. I'll take. Nah, that's too much. There we go. So now we know exactly how far back that slide goes. We'll put the slide back in its forward position to here so we can get the internal power pod. Yeah, I mean, my thought is that every so often you're going to have to pull the slide back, rotate the pod 90 degrees so that the weapons pods are like this, push the slide forward. That'll give you access to the contact points on this side so that you can clean that, and you can clean the contacts on either side there. And then you pull out the clip, you clean the contacts on the inside, clip back in, rotate it back around, push the slide forward, and you're ready to go. Bob's your uncle. You know, that's my thought on this. That would be kind of the better way to handle that, you know. For clean, because that's a good thinking process. I mean, we've got to be able to clean it. So you pull the slide, rotate the pod 90 degrees, push the slide forward, and that will give you this point right here will now be exposed, right? So you can clean that contact point. And then these internal contact points will also be exposed. So you'll be able to do that as well. That's my thought. However, now that we talk about this, I did take this back to make it look cool. But now that we talk about cleaning the weapon and keeping these contact points clean, might not be a bad idea. So maybe I will go back up to where I was, which is this contact point here. So that it does seal along that bottom. Yeah, nanites and things like that mess up your weapon. I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of, things to have to deal with. Thumb is there. This can come down on the slide to like here and give it kind of an interesting bend. Sort of a space agey bend to the slide. Let's give it a little bit more of a bend out here too. I actually don't know where the core went. There we are. Let's give it a little bit of a look. I mean, it's still a fictional comic book, and though I love to be as accurate to my weapons as plausible, there we go. So that covers this back section. So now I'll take the slide out. And this back section doesn't need to be like that anymore. because we just did that to make it look nice. But the truth is, it could be like this now. Right? And then once you put the slide on, it'll be that way. Be kind of cool because once the slide's back, now it's starting to kind of look neat. Look at that. It looks kind of cool. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. You know, it occurs to me one other thing. We could put a mount right here on the core for the sight. Right here. Like this. And then just cut that out of the slide. So the slide is open to here. Because A, that would give guide to the slide, right? And as long as it doesn't tilt forward like this, well, if it does tilt forward like this, actually it will give it strength so that it doesn't break this way, because that would be a way to break your, since we're going to be making these out of plastic, you want the slide to not do that. So there's that. And trying to put this together is going to be so much creativity. How do you serve this weapon? How do you service this weapon at all? How do you pull that slide out? Right, because here's the core. We'll take the rotation pod off. The slide now can come up through here. That's great, but and actually, let's go ahead and close up this gap back here, because that way we can get more strength out of the slide. Also give it a very satisfying clack whenever you close this slide, because this will fit really nicely right here onto the back of the weapon, the back of the core. Okay, so that is the back structure of this slide. I feel like the core could probably stand to go around this corner here for the benefit of our slide. Give it a little bit more structure. Come back here. This. So, on the slide, it will do the same sort of thing. So, and that should give us the ability. There we go. So, clack, clack. Okay, we can pull the slide out now. Still, the question is, how do you service this slide? clearly, I think we're not one piece. I think it's going to be one piece this way and then a piece that screws on this side with a screw here and a screw here. That's what's going to happen. So there'd be a screw here and a screw here, and that'll hold the slide pieces together. And then you can take the screw out and take the other screw out, and then the slide will come up right this way. And let's tuck the core and the rotation pod, because what should be on the inside of this slide is the power converter, which is this piece. Connect them all the way to the back. And actually probably connected through like this, so that way it also has the same screw holes in it. Pour out the rotational pod out, and that's what we're looking at. So there we go. And then we'll take yeah, because that's what's going to happen. Okay, so here's how this works. We have the bolt in here. And the power bolt would be in the center piece. So what you do is you'll put the left side of the slide, well, you'd slide the bolt in, then you put the left side of the slide in, and the two structural holes, which live in this guy right here. Oh, that's right, we do this from the center. Right here. Right, we do this guy right here. He's in the back. We've got this guy in the front, this guy in the back. Those are structural holes. So, I mean, the bolt is nothing more than just a device that fits inside the core and the slide. So here's the slide. It's got this piece that sits inside it. Wow, there's a lot of like design work to go into this. I'm not matching this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And take. And then because that should butt right up against it. That's what we want. Here we go. Go through here. Just pull up that section right there. Okay. So when we look at the way this goes, now that this slide is separated at this front piece, I'm going to round this because I don't want that to catch on things and then snap. I mean, I'm thinking in the way of the plastic. This back piece is all solid, so I don't have to worry about that. But this front piece now is twin rivets, like either side. So it'll go on either side of the mount for the scope mount. All right. Core has this weird, I don't know why I did this. All right. Up the front, rotation pod goes there. Clip. All right. Now we're talking. We're talking, people. We're talking. Look at that. All right. So the bolt, and slide the bolt back. We're going to have to make sure we have on this side of that bolt the finger pull, because you need to be able to pull that bolt back and push it back with the finger and the thumb when you have the scope on it. And now with that slide, I'm also noticing something else, which is there's no spot to put the stock on. Maybe there isn't a stock for it. Maybe that's just sort of the thing. It's not a stock. It doesn't have a stock. I mean, it's not going to have a lot of recoil. It has no recoil at all. Even when it fires missiles, the missiles gyrojet out. So it's got a little spring in there. It goes bling, and just flings the rocket out. Then the rocket leaves the barrel, and then it accelerates at that point. The majority of the stress in this weapon is going to be right here on this pivot point right here. So no matter what, when we print these, we're going to have to make sure that there's a metal rod in here. Because there will be no way that this thing could handle the stress across this piece right here is going to be serious, especially with a forward gyrojet launcher on it. Says me thinking about these things. Yep. Okay. Clamping that along the other way. And let's talk about the forward gyrojet pod. Back from lunch. I was saying that when you print this, we're going to have to actually put a piece of metal in this section piece right here, because there's going to be a ton of stress right here, and plastic won't be able to hold it. So I'm going to make the core with a hole through this section right here, so you can put a piece of metal in there. Now we're going to put the gyrojet pod on. The gyrojet pod will stick out from here. What? From here, like so. Well, I mean, even if you print it solid, I don't think there'll be enough structure. I feel like the prop will have to have a metal rod for it. Now, the gyrojet pod only works when it's not in stun mode. So the large piece on the bottom is going to have to flip to the top. But when it does, but you also have to be able to keep your weapon in stun. So the gyrojet pod will have to hold to some degree like this. Now, what the gyrojet pod has is the gyrojet slide, which loads gyrojets into the launch mechanism above. So we're going to do a slide for this guy too. I mean, honestly, this just looks like a mean weapon. It you know, like all weapons, its primary mission is to be terrifying looking. Because the idea is if you can scare people, then they don't attack you. At least that's the theory. It's sort of like the police. Whatever's. So, like this backslide, this one is a pump action. So, clack, clack, blap, clack, clack, blap, clack, clack, blap, sort of thing. So the idea is that it's firing gyrojets every time you pump it back. It loads another gyrojet into this upper chamber to this guy here. So we'll rotate the pod to give that an idea of where we are when we're at that point. Right? We'll take a look at where the pod is. There we go. Shotgun style. Well, and you know, a lot of this is drama, right? This is a dramatic weapon, right? You want it to chick, chick. You know, I'm about to get you. You know, chick, chick. We've loaded a gyrojet. You know, if you've got the gyrojet pod, that's what it's doing. 3 more minutes. So there we go. Dramatic weapon. But again, I see a need for a rod that goes through this entire piece right here to hold that all together. Not sure how to get the interlink here to work. But especially here, it's going to be hinged. It's going to end up trying to fall off the bottom there, that front. And especially if you're like, clack, clack, it'll go clink and fall off, and everybody will be like, ah, you're an idiot. You know, it won't be as cool. I'm going to have to look at this and think about this for a minute or two. Because really, honestly, slide on the gyro jet could probably go up more. Doesn't need to be this low. Right through here, like so. It could come all the way up to the nose. Like that. Right? I don't know if that's our goal. The goal is to be threatening. Unlike this after slide, though, this slide, I feel like this forward slide doesn't need to be that complicated as far as engineering goes. It could just be 3 pods that are in like this that just press in and press out, and we could put a spring in it. So that, you know, what it's really in comic doing is it has a bunch of gyrojet rockets loaded right here, and they're coming along this trail here and then being fed each one into this upper chamber to be ignited. But what happens is if there's a gyrojet inside, if there's a gyrojet missile inside here, then the power converter back here goes down a little bit. So all it does is just ignite the gyrojet. Well, that's what I was thinking is it's not necessarily that the pump action does that. The pump loads another gyrojet rocket into the chamber. Then the trigger pull, once the gyrojet's in here, there's a safety that downplays the power run on this. So the power is not so high coming out of this barrel. And instead, what you end up with is you end up with a low power burst, which then ignites the fuel in the gyrojet, which then launches itself out the barrel. And the gyrojets can do whatever they want. I mean, like you can have, and in fact, I think this would be reasonable. You have the guys around this corner over here, so you just go bap, and the missile goes and turns that way and takes out the guy to the left. You know, once you tag him, the gyrojets can do all kinds of stuff because they're self-guided. So they'll be self-guided missiles. So to be, direct fire and then remote fire, clack, clack, bap, and then takes off down the road. So I think that's where we're standing on this. I will go on ahead and save these guys so that we can work on them next week too. Obviously, we're going to be interspersing this with working on, hit them from behind. There's all kinds of crap that you can do when you have self-guided missiles. It's going to be wonderful. So the problem I've got is how am I going to fix it so that our prop doesn't fall apart? That's the big issue. How do we get it so that the prop doesn't actually collapse on us? because you don't want the prop to fall apart on this one. So if you're building it, which I assume you and I will both want to build one. So we've got a heck of a design going for us here. Okay, guys, that's all we're going to do right now. I'm going to see you all then next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully, when we come back, the office will be completely different because I'll be putting the standing desks on Saturday, in theory. Anyway, so I'll talk to you all later. Keep your eyes on the stars. Computer, good night.